Hi there. I'm going to call this episode "If These Cranes Could Talk." Crane to my left is the crane that took down the Liberty Monument, Davis Monument. I think was also there for Beauregard and Lee. The crane to my right took down Lee and Beauregard in New Orleans. So the deal is these cranes are now in this yard, unmarked. As you can see by the bridge behind me out in New Orleans East. That's the high-rise bridge. A lot of weeds growing around these guys. How do they end up here? You know, it's just so much lack of transparency. A lot of rumors that the city bought them because they couldn't find anybody that really wanted to do the job. And in talking to a few people that were offered the job at over $200,000 a monument, they turned it down because their ethics were like, this is wrong. It's just wrong to take these monuments down. You're ripping the vital organs out of New Orleans. Some people have proposed that New Orleans could be a World Heritage Site, which would be rare, really rare. There's only 1,000 of them in the world. But if you took out the monuments that are over 100 years old, it would be like the heart, the lung, the kidneys, that were parts of the city that created that. And oddly enough, when I say talk, on the night Jefferson Davis was captured after the Civil War was May 10th. That night, this crane was removing the Davis Monument. At one point, they busted the hydraulics in it because they were overusing it. You can see this stuff is really old and used. Apparently, it was bought by the city, and then did they let a private contractor use it? Or are they letting people make money using city-owned equipment, which in my town, that was wrong. In a lot of other towns, there's ordinances that say you can't, if you're a city employee, you can't take a lawnmower home and cut the grass for your neighbors and make extra money. It's called an outside business activity. So did the city buy these cranes and then let other companies use them to make money through the Foundation for Louisiana that paid them over $1 million? And the city itself moved $250,000 from the Wisner Fund over to the Foundation of Louisiana against what the Foundation Trust that was left the money to New Orleans says it should have done. There's just so much unknown here. Maybe everything is all good, but when you have lack of transparency, it really fosters some really serious questions. So this other crane shows up, and oddly enough, they took down Beauregard right before his birthday. He's turned 199 years old this year. So they took him down the week before his birthday, and then they showed up the next week and took down Robert E. Lee right before Memorial Day. Lee was right in front of the World War II Museum, and Dwight Eisenhower said that he studied Lee, and so did Patton, to win World War II. And in fact, during those years in the White House, Eisenhower hung a portrait of Lee in the White House, and he was questioned about it. He wrote a very strong letter saying that his opinion, Robert E. Lee, was one of the top Americans of all times, and he wished every American had his valor, his integrity, his courage, his dedication to America. So here we have the two cranes, and they could tell the stories of the firemen that were on these cranes, removing those monuments as they had issues. Like this crane, there's rumors that it couldn't go that far, so they had to remove the governor off of it. And if you see the insides of these, this guy is really gutted. I mean, it's unbelievable that this was allowed on the road, and the markings are all covered up. So what were they thinking those days when they were removing them, and what were they saying among themselves where they had Robert E. Lee dangling from that hoist right there, or Jefferson Davis from this hoist? I do want to show you that they did go through great extremes to cover up who the owners were, and even scratched out the inspections. Like, when were the last time these cranes were inspected to make sure they could even do the work? I mean, these are really old cranes, so let's take a look. Okay, so you see in here, you can see that the door that's painted over. Right here is the serial number on the crane. It's a Krupp mobile crane. You look over here, and they scratched out the inspection sticker. And there's nothing here on this certification. And over here, you know, you can just see that everything's been painted over several times. Really not sure what it's about. It is a tipping hazard. At least that was left. As we go to this other crane, you can see, you know, the plates are all removed. That is a New Orleans carpet yard in the other side of the street where the monuments are stored. Maybe this is New Orleans land. There's no signs on it, so you really don't know whose land it is. And as we walk across here, lots of weeds growing around these guys. I mean, this is a city asset. It's amazing this is how they take care of it. You can just see how overgrown it is. It's hard to know how long they've been here or when the grass was cut, or if they just have written these guys off. This is the cab of the crane that was used for removing Davis and all the monuments. But look, you can see the wires dangling. Looking inside, you can just see what the inside of it looks like. So back to here, I just want to let you guys see this is where the bridge in the background where they're storing the cranes that were the faithful removers of New Orleans heritage. You can go to savenolaheritage.org. We have a petition. You can learn more about what's going on with this whole situation of spending a lot of money to take care of things. Or not take care of things. We're at about 4,000 signed petitions right now. We need your help. We got to get to 10,000 to put this on the ballot. The monuments are still stored across the street, and word is the way they're storing the monuments is it's metal on metal. So these guys lasted over 100 years in the elements, but if you put a piece of bronze on another piece of metal, the metals corrode and interact, and you could destroy the monument. So it's hard to say what else the city's doing right now, but they're really, it's the transparency or lack of it is alarming. So give us a help. SaveNolaHeritage.org. Thank you.